What is poppin'? It is the Slapped, and I am but a lowly Slapped riding these ReFi waves. And this is This Week in ReFi, where we give you all of the ReFi news that is fit to go ape wild over. Do not adjust your screens, because not only do we have the man with the plan, the man without a tan, the Estonian madman Rez,
It's me.
we also have Greenbelt Billy from ChangeBlock.
Yay.
That's him. Don't adjust your screens. There's three of us.
Uh,
No,
um,
it's always I love one thing that I've noticed about this space is just I always said this to people is people in refi tend to be intelligent. Have you guys picked up on that? Like just like people
I
who
think so.
yeah.
I don't think they're intelligent. I think they're just bloody determined to try and understand. Because you're dealing with two really complex topic areas. First of all, you've got DeFi, right, or blockchain, which in unto itself is tricky to get into. It takes time and a bit of determination. And then you've got climate markets, it's an absolute, they're also deeply confusing at the best times. So to actually get that synergy, you've got to be pretty determined and have done a bit of bookwork.
Or, I don't know, in my case, I'm just like, I love complicated shit, and this is the most complicated shit I could find that felt
I think that
meaningful.
may be why I'm here as well. I just kind of, my nose takes me to, where are the hardest problems?
Me too.
Um,
That's what I love about this is how complicated. Like that's honestly that's my people ask like why do you like refi? Like it's everything. It is this the environmental part. It is the financial part. But it's also the fact that this stretches me. It stretches me intellectually. It stretches my ability to to understand. It's not easy, and so it's that stimulation is like beautiful. That's so wild that you all said that. That's how I feel too.
and
Yeah.
also, as you said, it's the world, right? It's the environment. It's more than just, we're not just trying to, decks or come up with some quirky new, way to mine liquidity. We're really at the core of most of our agendas, I found, with the exception of a small group, we're actually very, very committed to actually trying to do some good for the environment. And that adds a whole layer of emotion, it adds a layer of complexity. And, in many ways, it's a good thing, but then in many ways, a hindrance.
Indeed, indeed. Well said. So, yeah, Rez and I, the reason you're here is because we were learning about ChangeBlock and we were not too familiar with it because there's just a lot to know. We don't know everything. So we were reading your white paper and we realized it was an ambitious project and we were trying to piece together the parts of it. And we said, why are we doing this? Let's just get somebody from ChangeBlock to tell us about ChangeBlock. And this has been a mission, our white whale, for the last month and a half. And we finally landed you. So, how could you explain? I know ChangeBlock is a lot of things, but what would be your high level overview if someone were want to grok it in a short amount of
So I
time?
think, so I think to grasp it in a short amount of time, I think the easiest way to think about it in the first instance, it is just a marketplace for a better world. And, and we achieve that means that ends with block. That's the simplest way of looking at it. But underneath that, what we're really trying to do is connect, project developers, climate assets, data and finance together in a kind of climate market maker, such that people can buy, trade, hold, and retire carbon credits, whether they're Vera, whether they're gold standard, other registries, other projects such as Puro. They can do that seamlessly with using blockchain. Also, crucially, we also want to facilitate these earlier stage projects. So these projects that haven't been able to be verified yet, or project developers in bits of the world that it's very hard for them to get finance, them that can help. And lastly, it absolutely does involve some degree of tokenization. But I think we want to be quite sensitive to change what we are about that word tokenization because it gets really misconstrued. Ultimately, tokenization is just a technology, right? It's just a template. A token is a template on how you write some code. And so, we're trying to synergize these three things to solve some of the really undeniable problems that we face in this market that, I think it is inaccessible, okay? People cannot buy and hold carbon credit. You might be able to buy and retire, charity out there, but you can't buy and hold them. And it should be open to everyone, okay? The market is unbelievably fragmented. The liquidity is awful. it's ultra intermediated, and these are problems that everyone knows they're there. And I think what we've seen in recently in this market is that the fragmentation isn't going away, because the brokers, the market participants, with the growth that we're seeing, they're all kind of shutting their doors and putting their defenses in, so they can kind of keep their business going. So we're really trying to, it's a disintermediation play. That's the vision, and it's going to be launching very, very, very soon. Maybe later we'll kind of give a little demo as to what we can do.
Excellent. So just so we get a little bit more specific, it is a marketplace, which means that you can buy and sell carbon assets on the marketplace, correct?
Exactly. So you could log in, and as a user, and you could say, look, I want to buy some Vera, I want to buy some Puro registry tokens, Puro creditor capture. You could buy them, you can hold them, you could sell them back into the marketplace. We're developing a liquidity system, so you could sell them into an eco debt. And the idea is that it gives people that ability to arbitrage opportunity. It gives people the ability to buy, to hold, and you can retire them. So I think it's very important to note that it's been made very clear by the governing bodies in the space that you cannot make any claims towards neutrality, and that your carbon credits haven't. Retirement is the way you utilize them, and so we really do facilitate that. So you can retire your credits on platform, and yeah, absolutely, you can trade them, send them to others, hold them, and interestingly, we've got some other features, what we call ChangeBlocks, CBLKs, and these are like fund tokens. So say you wanted to build your own specific portfolio, you had a real passion for plastic. You could incorporate some of your plastic tokens, bring in some carbon captures, and create your own little mini index. It could, Slapton, we could have the Slapton index.
Ooh.
Based on your favorite, carbon projects, avoidance criteria, and other people be able to chip into that. So we're really trying to bring in innovative financial instruments and carbon instruments to try and grow the market.
Yeah, so let's dig a bit deeper into that. So when you say index, is that very similar to what in traditional DeFi terms like Balancer is doing, for instance, or is this more closer to what the index co-op is doing?
I'd say, Balance is quite obviously complicated. These are Balancer pools, and so we do have the capacity to adjust the pools. But I think the best way, say you wanted to create a change block, right, and you wanted that change block to be ocean plastic. So what you could do is you could take all of the projects ratio. Say you were really, had a real thing about a certain kind of plastic, you could weight that higher. So 60% plastic type A, 20% plastic type B, 20% plastic type C, and that would amalgamate into a single representative token. Different example could be, if you were doing it with traditional cryptocurrencies, 60% Bitcoin, 20% Ethereum, 20% AVAX, for example, and that token would have that representative value. The venue to be able to say, actually, hey, look, I want to trade my 20,000 tons of, Ugandan CERs with your, 10,000 tons of whatever. You need that facility. And we absolutely want to provide
like an order book?
Well, it's in an order book. Filling an order book for a centralized exchange is basically what a DEX does, right?
No, like an automated market maker, like a sushi swap, explicitly isn't an order book, right? So
yeah,
it doesn't connect buyers and sellers. It very explicitly doesn't do that. You are always the buyer or the seller with the central liquidity pool.
But I think that the experience. Well, the experience is maybe the wrong word. The feature, the functionality is not dissimilar, right? Because on the big centralized exchanges like Bitfinex, who I know quite well, they've got their order book, and then they have their big liquidity provider, GSR, whoever it will be, who'll just match all those orders in the DEX context based on you create your automated smart contracts. You've got the pool, and you're right. You're either buying or you're selling. But it's that it's that functionality. We want people to be able to sell and buy their tokens, and we want them to be able to have a buyer if they want to sell and a seller if they want to buy, and that's where you can introduce the automated market maker to make sure that can happen.
Okay, but it's essentially like an upgrade to what we have in the market right now, or like I'm trying to understand what's the motivation of kind of increasing the surface area of your code, since as we know, like in crypto, the more surface area you have, the more like problems you tend to face over a longer time span.
Well, no, I definitely, I think the key with your smart contract based code is, keep it simple, keep it really, really, keep it
Hmm.
minimalist. So our automated market maker is, very much inspired by Uniswap's V1, V2, those kind of core contracts. And I think it's a really important functionality for our users, because if they buy, a certain load of carbon credits and say they realize they don't want them anymore, or they realize that they bought the wrong type, or actually they realize that if they had this type, they knew someone who kind of did want those, then we want to make sure that they can facilitate that. Also, a lot of the other tokens in the refi space, gentlemen, they're just one that you've got one or two types of token. You might have like the very generalized TCO2 or the the NCT, which are these big basket tokens. A ChangeBlock, it's not about that. We have a CBT per vintage. Okay, so every project, for every vintage per project, that's where the token issuance happens. That's the lowest level, and that's why the change blocks become quite interesting, because that's where you can create that homogenization. So if you want one project token, a change block, you could pack that up with, say, 4 or 5 years worth of vintages.
So
And
there's
so we're
no
really giving
project.
people that.
So there's no like project level token in existence at
There is
all.
that's one up. So it starts at the vintage level, and then you can combine those into the project level, and then you can combine them further. It's
Yeah.
a
Okay.
hierarchical system.
What I like about this conversation is Rez's product design chops are coming out right now, and he's like, well, "Why would you do this? And how would you do
Well,
that?"
Rez, I think we should hop on a call with our amazing product team, and you can tell us all the reasons that you think what we're doing is a bad idea.
And he will. He'll tell you.
Yeah, I think I've even had a call with your product team about like a very many months ago, but happy to get it.
Rez is an
I
honest
think
man.
if we, gentlemen, I think we should kind of take a step back almost to like
Yep.
why does ChangeBlock exist in the first place? Like blockchain, is it the right solution for climate? Now, we all know that for years and years and years, like 4 or 5 years, that the climate community, whether it's the European Union or, they've been saying blockchain can solve the problems, right? Double counting, blockchain can help solve this. It can improve data collection. It can improve verification. It can improve financial flows. It can improve access to climate finance. Blockchain smart contracts, they can help with result-based payment schemes. It can improve with transparency on financial flows. Now, if all this is true, and if all these world experts, these huge global operations and organizations are telling us that blockchain solves all these problems, my question is how, and can it really? And that's what ChangeBlock's been about. And it's taken us so long to get this product to market because we've really tried to solve this problem from so many different vectors. And having done all that, we've realized actually, this the way we're taking it is simple and smooth is the one. And we're finding a lot of resistance from transparency in general. And so I think that's what ChangeBlock is about. Is can blockchain actually help? Will improved liquidity help? Will increasing the transparency of flows for these assets help? Will making these products more accessible to the general public and to businesses help? And is it actually going to be a solution, or is this whole thing a great ruse? No one really understood what blockchain was, and is it just going to die a slow and painful death? I don't think so. Because there aren't many carbon exchanges that the regular person can access. In fact, there are none. Exchanges, that is. And that's what we're trying to bring to the market. We're really trying to make the carbon markets open to anyone, because they shouldn't be closed off. There's no reason that you, Snapton or Rez, shouldn't be able to actually buy and hold your own carbon credits. You're a polluter. You should be able to take part in that, and you shouldn't be constrained.
No, it's fully true. Like a carbon trading house won't talk to you if you're not doing a deal under like 1,000 credits at least.
Exactly, and each of those transactions takes months to structure.
It does. Yes, it takes months to structure. It takes a lot of paperwork. It takes a lot of all sorts of like KYC. It has a whole process. It has a reporting structure.
This is
Yeah.
what ChangeBlock solves, right, in the back end.
Mm.
Because what you don't see as a user are standardized contracts, KYC, KYB, like with our compliance partner. What you don't see is our standardized emission purchase reduction agreement. What you don't see is our stringent due diligence and the analysis we do into these projects. So like we've been doing a lot of that work. We've been trying to standardize these processes so we can bring on lots of different projects in the same format, because what the market really needs, it needs the great homogenization, and that won't necessarily happen in the price dimension. We know that we could talk about the pricing problem in a second. I'd love to chat about the pricing problem, but the heterogeneity exists in so many dimensions in this market that you've got to try and standardize somewhere. But I think just briefly, what are the participants in this market really want? What do you guys think? Like, what do you think they want? What do they want to see?
Who are the participants?
That's the question. Yeah.
Well, two-sided marketplace, right? You've got buyers. I guess let's start with the buyers. Yeah.
Okay, who are the buyers? Let's get to that level, because there are also traders. So traders can be buyers, corporations can be buyers. These are like, are we talking about corporations? Are we talking about traders?
Or me.
We can run through them both.
Let's do corporations.
Cool.
Go.
Yeah.
Go. What would you say, Rez? What do you think the corporations?
Yeah, Rez. Yeah, let's start with the big corporations. The big polluters.
Yeah. So the biggest corporations, they essentially have so much money they could essentially just put up their own projects and do it. And a lot of the time, that is actually what they do. So they work directly with very reputable project proponents. They finance the whole thing, and they essentially claim the entire volume of the offsets. There are other alternatives.
I think Microsoft just bought like a gazillion square meters of rainforest or something, and they're like, we're done.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not actually totally true. I read a really interesting report that Microsoft released that I'll send around to you guys. It was like lessons learned from early purchases in the carbon markets 2021. Really interesting article about the problems that they faced and a bit of a retrospective.
Quick shout out to Carbon Plan, the guys that really helped both Stripe and Microsoft do a lot of due diligence on a lot of different methodologies and projects.
Okay, so the corporations they can buy the world and they can get themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
So what about
their boundary? The blocker for them is actually the fact that they need to really understand exactly what they're buying, because when we're talking about offsets, they have a huge blowback potential, which is why even if you're a mid-sized corporation, you have your own due diligence team, even if the whatever carbon trading house or intermediary.
Yeah. Here begins the problem, right? Because I think we're talking about quality here, right? So big corporations, first of all, a lot of them are regulated, right? So airlines, they're regulated, or big tech. They need quality credits. Fundamentally, they need to be net zero for reputational reasons. They need to be net zero because they have the regulation imposed upon them. But they need to buy high quality credits, and they want to minimize the cost in terms of dollars and time. They're risk averse. They're brand conscious, and they don't know who to trust. And I think you're right. They are often forced to make huge assumptions. Or even worse, they're forced to pay people to go make huge assumptions. I know sustainability consultants at Deloitte, I studied with some of them at university, and they are professional Googlers. They're brilliant minds, they really get sustainability, but at the end of the day, that's all you end up doing. And so they need quality. They also need choice. They need choice, to be able to make sure that their portfolio that they're going to buy actually maybe matches their scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 at a more granular level than just empty CO2. If you're producing a ton of plastic, you need to offset your plastic. I also think they need control, they need security, they need, exposure, for what they're doing and regulation in some ways. And I think blockchain can help in all of these areas, right? But I think the biggest corporations are the hardest ones to be served by the ReFi community, because they've been in this market for so long. The big corporations have been participating in the climate markets for 10, 15, 20 years. And, that's not where the majority of the growth I think we're going to see is, because as we said, they've done all this work already. what do we think about the traders then, or the kind of the smaller businesses, the smaller kind of groups, the business customers that might want to buy? What do we think they want to see?
They want no headache. That is mostly the service you're providing them. They just want something that works. They don't want to hire their own team essentially to assess quality. They just want to trust the middleman enough that they can get away with buying offsets and then not find 6 months later that they're crap. That's mostly the business relationship there. And finally, when we're talking about traders, that's its whole can of worms, and we're going to be here for an hour.
We should not talk about traders. But that's good. That was good. I agree with Rez.
Yeah, and I think, I think you're exactly right. And I think, like, how can blockchain solve these? I think a key thing we haven't spoken about necessarily is fees, right? These guys want the best bang for their buck. They don't want to be victim to a 20% accumulated fee across that supply chain. They just don't want it. And I think blockchain is a huge opportunity to reduce the fees, because if you do truly disintermediate, and you, like with ChangeBlock, we're onboarding project developers into our crowd investing platform, they're going to hopefully be having, credits ready 2024, 2025. If you connect the end user with that project developer, you've just saved not only that poor project developer agonizing work with centralized finance industries, you're saving groups in Colombia or Peru having to deal with, American or Western banks. You're just connecting them straight there with a hugely reduced fee. So you're saving everyone money and time. Coming back to that thing you made about quality, you're absolutely right. They don't want a headache. People just want to pay, and they want to feel very, very comfortable that what they're buying is good, right? And there's no doubt that blockchain should be able to help with MRV. That's monitoring, reporting, and validation. There's just no doubt. And I think it really, it should be able to solve a lot of these problems, but it won't stand a chance if the market doesn't trust the technology. And, I think, this is where we come to one of these really interesting problems, trust, this word trust, trustless, more truth, less trust, as you hear from Polkadot. Like, this is, a really important topic here, especially in ReFi, because Klima, amazing, awful, who even knows, right? But I think, what they demonstrated is that there is unbelievable potential for decentralized finance to deliver capital value to the climate markets. $1 billion in a few days, right? Like, literally, so we know there's the potential. We know that there's the market incentive. But we also know now that there is a lot of skepticism after, the HFC, Fandango, and, there are, issues there. It massively made worse by, the terror, the, recent, troubles in the more generalized DeFi markets. And so it's almost like a double-edged sword we're dealing with here. Blockchain is both the source of trustless truth, but then it's also a source of great anonymity and skepticism to those who don't understand it. So how do you guys think we can work around that? Like, what do we do? And I can tell you then afterwards what ChangeBlock are trying to do to address this.
I just love that technically I think people in like the carbon market space would almost use the same terms to describe what they're doing. It's like, carbon credits can be this like magical tool that is very useful to decarbonize the planet, but at the same time there's a lot of skepticism exactly in this like same form. I think
what is a carbon credit, right? People
exactly. Yeah,
it's like, what is it? What is this thing?
Yeah,
it's this piece of paper that what is it?
Well, one thing you brought up that I think about this all the time. It's the fundamental question of what is the use case of blockchain? What is its limitations? What can it actually do, right? So I think you have on one side that you're kind of suggesting there's a bunch of people who think it's going to change everything, right? We have a new technology and it's going to revolutionize literally everything. And then you find out, like with something like Klima, like to your point, and I'm not here to shit on it, but like, it did really good things, but then there was also problems with quality. You see that the technology you can trust in, but the technology is not the only part of the system. There's also baked into these systems, human beings and their organizations and their machinations and their behaviors, right? So you can have a trusted technology that's bringing on shitty credits. And so you are not dividing that trust properly, or some people aren't. They're saying, well, if we can trust the
It's
technology,
what are you trusting, right?
yes, what are you
Yeah, it's
trusting?
like I can trust a sword to cut someone in half, right? But like, do
Right,
I trust the person
right.
holding it, right? You
That's
know, it's
it.
like
That's it. So my personal belief is that I don't think uh, these technologies are going to solve everything, because at the end of the day, the person wielding the tool is still a person, and I don't think that the limitations that are binding us right now are purely technological. I think that a lot of the limitations we encounter in our systems is the limitations of humanity. However, I do believe that if you want to look at a use case for blockchain that is undeniable, is that we can cut out the middleman, because we are currently paying people and
exactly,
systems right now
exactly.
to be the trust mechanism, and that's expensive. And so if the code is the trust mechanism, we can do that. There is no doubt about that, and we've already done that. This is a pessimistic view. How do we ever solve the trust issue at large of quality of carbon credits? I don't think we ever can. I think it's going to be an ongoing.
I agree. I don't think you ever can like solve a blanket just because there's so much variety in the kind of credits you're dealing with, right? So I think you absolutely can solve it with blockchain. For an example, such as one company that we work with, who I can't name, they stick these big fat boxes onto emissions pipes, right? They capture all that CO2 and they convert it into something useful, right? Now they have IoT devices built into their technology. You connect that IoT with, blockchain, you really do know exactly how many kilos of CO2 is being captured. And in that sense, you're done, you're good. I think to answer like what blockchain can solve, I think we should like, let's look at what the world has said, okay? Before this last year of craziness, the World Bank said that carbon pricing, an instrument that reduces GHG emissions, also drives technological innovation necessary to mitigate climate change and foster low carbon development. Market-based carbon pricing instruments, such as trading schemes, emissions tradings, face challenges around data collection, transparency, processing, and analysis that make conducting the transactions across global systems complex. Adoption of blockchain and other disruptive technologies can address the needs of the new generation climate markets. We've also seen the World Bank again say that a blockchain-based transaction log that supports the curate protocol should facilitate communication between registries to better improve transparency. Re-engineering the carbon supply chain with blockchain technology, Infosys, right, is a key movement, as it's so manual at the moment. And, I think that we should ask ourselves, in carbon trading, do we need to store data? Yes. Are there multiple parties to a transaction? Yes. Is there a dependence on third parties? Yes. Are all the transaction participants known? Well, not necessarily. Are all these participants trusted? No. Can blockchain solve these problems? In theory, yes. Do you want ideally self-executing smart contracts to facilitate trade? Well, ideally, yes, that would be useful. Is it of interest to build in collateral, lending, borrowing features into a market trading platform? Yes, ChangeBlock's doing that. Do you need audit trails, immutable audit trails to support potential litigation down the line? Yes, you do. And do you need to provide access to kind of backup information around these things? Yes. So in theory, blockchain can help all of these. But I think you're right. It's not about the technology. It's about the people building that technology. It's about, it's about trusting those companies. And this, I think, is, where this kind of more truth, less trust, this whole trust issue is going to facilitate. Because everyone looks to these big trusted third parties. They all look to the World Bank. They all look to Vera. They all look to these other, big industries as the point of trust. And they just move too slowly,
Yeah.
Or even worse, I hate to say it, World Bank, amazing organization. They built a meta registry a few times. They did a load of experiments on it. They did a trial run. I've seen the academic papers. They've done these amazing architecture diagrams, done all these, and then what happens to it? It just gets put on the pile. It's just like, oh, well done. We tried it out. And they don't actually do it. The amount of work that's been gone into solving these problems and just put on a pile as an academic experiment is insane. It's insane.
Indeed.
And so, I guess at ChangeBlock, we're just trying to do these things.
Yep.
But look, here's a great idea, it solves problem. Let's try and build it. Let's see if it works. And we find that there's a lot of resistance.
Yep.
A lot of resistance, which is tricky.
Okay. Well, yeah, these conversations are the best. I love them. Rez has to get going to a 6-hour board game in 10 minutes. So let's, for the sake of time, let's go over a couple other stories. Let's hit, well, I think we touched on the Vera thing really quickly, and we touched on the issues of trusting, and you also at the very end said that these TradFi companies, these legacy companies, are moving too slowly. Do you have a prediction? I have on my screen the guiding principles from IETA. Do you have a prediction for how this plays out, and where ChangeBlock lies within this Vera brouhaha of pausing all tokenization of their credits?
Well, let's just be super clear. Vera haven't paused tokenization of all credits. Vera have, to take a step back, so IATA is the International Emissions Trading Association. And when you don't have a global regulatory authority on a market, you go to the trading association. The worst comes to the worst. If everything ends up in litigation, chances are the principles from the International Association will be used as like, these are kind of the rules. So it's a good place to start. Now, their guiding principles are part of the task force on digital asset integrity, key. And digital asset integrity is what we've been talking about. And what they say is that tokens should be minted only for issued ex post verified carbon credits, not cancelled or retired credits. And now, if we just pause the debate about whether retirement should be a thing, this does make sense. And, fundamentally, because, what you don't want is people selling their credits, retiring them. A lot of suppliers, they will sell their credits and they'll retire them on behalf of the person who bought them. What you don't want to have is those brokers then tokenizing those credits to get that double value. And that is what I have caught on a little bit here.
Well, no, I think this is like a very bad faith argument by some traders, to be honest. The fact is that you can't tokenize through like tokens process, you can't tokenize them in a way that you also get to claim the, retirement as some companies offset, because the fields that you generally use to do that are filled in with essentially, hey, by the way, we're tokenizing this. You can't do both at the same time. Historically, there have been, I think, examples of these sorts of batch retirements on behalf of multiple beneficiaries, which might be very suspicious. But I don't personally feel the argument that, hey, because you retired it, this is double counting. I don't think that's correct. There's like a very specific reason why I think this is true. And that is, if you're cancel it on one end and create it on the other end, there's a continuity. If you do this thing where you custody and then, transact, which is completely a viable model, and there's, nothing wrong with that either, but it does have an additional, added risk, which is what happens if the underlying custody account is compromised for whatever reason, because then you do have double counting. Like, double counting is more likely under the custodied model if you set up the retirement mechanism correctly in the retirement model.
I would, both interesting points. I would say, from my perspective, whether it makes sense or not at this point doesn't. I shouldn't say doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter because they're not allowing it.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. And and honestly, the statement that they gave was essentially that generally market participants perceive that retirement is the claim of an offset or whatever. And okay, well, fair enough.
Yeah, that's the whole.
But I think that's been built into Vera since its core. I think that's been a.
This is exactly how credits from the CDM registry end up on Vera, by the way. This is like literally the process. It's yes, it's sanctioned. The difference is that it's sanctioned. There's no additional differences.
It's the control vector, right? I think.
Yeah.
And I think I think the Vera have said, I mean, it's been clear to me at least that Vera's principle has always been, when you retire a credit, you use its natural capital value that it gets extinguished at that point.
Except when it gets moved from the CDM into Vera.
Definitely, and unfortunately, we don't have a seat at that table, right? The CDM, these are the
Well, no,
CDM.
it's Vera that has to approve that this is how you do it. That is
Well, this
not
is it.
CDM.
It's the control vector, right?
Yeah,
And you'll find that the Vera and the CDM groups, and these are very small. This is a small world, right? Up
yeah,
until this
it is.
last year, the climate world is small. We're probably talking about 50, 100, very, very successful, prominent, businessmen and women in the climate space who come together to come up with these schemes and deliver on them. And it's whether people trust them. And I think it's I don't think you can assume bad faith. I think it's just they are going to need to adapt, and they're doing that, and it's going to be very interesting to see how they do that. And I don't think anyone could have foreseen the growth that we've seen in this market. And I just, the guiding principles from IATA, I think they're promising. I think they show that they're caring about the right things, and I think that they use the word tokenization, which is fine, and and I'm optimistic, certainly for how this is going to progress. But I think what it shows is that a huge amount of the market is controlled by Vera, and we have to ask: is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing?
No,
I
it's a
think we
bad
have
thing.
to ask.
No, it's not a good.
thing.
I think we have to ask ourselves. I mean, yeah, I think we have to ask ourselves who audits Vera projects. Who audits Vera? Okay, because
Yeah, who audits the
I,
auditor? Exactly, that's the main
who
question here.
audits the
The
auditor? And
answer.
I think I don't know. I've not done some investigation into Vera projects, but who knows? That HFC Fandango, I don't know what's there. I'm sure that there's stuff that we don't want to find. But I think we need to keep democratizing this market.
Yeah.
Vera are an NGO. They are a huge multinational corporation. They do everything. They own the registry, they own the marketplace, they own the project certification. They're like a vertically integrated. It's like IKEA, or it's like Escobar of climate, right? These are two fully vertically integrated industries. And we have to ask ourselves, is that a good thing? And I've worked with people at Vera. I've spoken to them a lot. Like ChangeBlock was designed last year in consultation with, some people who have a lot of experience with Vera, and they're great people and they care about the environment, and they do. But it's tricky, and I think we need to promote independent registries. We need to promote new companies like Puro. We need to promote these novel ways, and have faith in the audit and the trust in these things.
All
Agreed.
right.
Yeah, we can't have decentralization on top of just a one
monopoly.
huge centralized entity.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. All right, Rez,
Yeah.
I'm being conscious of time because you have a 30-hour board game to go to in 2 minutes. So we had a couple stories. We can do this again another time too. Of course,
Yep.
Billy, we'll love to have you back. I like when you two when you disagree about things, because when I disagree about things with Rez, he makes me feel dumb. But you guys know what you're talking about. So let's end it with this. Billy, from from ChangeBlock, what's coming next? What's the time frame for you guys for development? What should we be expecting from you?
Next week, guys, you can expect the first version of our exchange. We're going to have our first set of projects, including Puro, Vera, Gold Standard, amongst others. These are going to be available to buy and hold next week. Shortly after, we'll be introducing our retirement flows, and everything's going to be a kind of a ripple down. So I think guys, next week you'll join our Discord. You'll see it announced across our socials. Come and take part. Come and buy a climate token in the knowledge that you actually own that credit. And if you wanted to, we could get that obligation handed over to you. And it's real. It's the first time that I know of that retail users can actually buy and hold actual carbon credits for themselves without having to go through the most messy intermediation chain. So I think sit tight. We're very excited to bring this product to you. We've been working on it for a year now. So that's coming up next. And hopefully, Slapton, you'll invite me back and Rez, and we can talk about how it's gone and all the problems.
Of course. And I'll leave a link to everything. I'll leave a link to your Discord. I'll leave a link to your website, all the documentation. And my question for you, Rez, now that we've got the man on, we've got Sir Billy on. That's what I should call him, Sir Billy Greenbelt.
Greenbelt Billy. Yeah.
Greenbelt Billy. Do you know what ChangeBlock does now?
Bit more, yes.
Yeah,
The answer is mostly everything, eventually.
Well, we need
But I think
mostly.
the long-term plan is to do a lot. But initially, guys, you can buy, you can hold, you can sell, and you can retire carbon credits. And you can do that
Okay.
across the registries. That's what you can do. And yes, they are tokens. So yes, you can go and, spin up a liquidity pool somewhere else and, do whatever. Like they are, proper, they're ERC20 standards. And so, opens up a world of opportunity for this market.
Cool. Last question for both of you. Rez, is it toucan or toucan?
Toucan.
Billy, is it toucan or toucan?
It's toucan.
No, you're supposed to. Everybody across the pond says toucan, and I love it. That we
It
had
is toucan. Toucan.earth. Yeah.
Toucan.
in America we call it toucan.
I think Toucan are an amazing project, and I think that they need like maybe we can end on this. I think as a community in ReFi, we need to come together.
Yep.
We need to like form a bit of a group, a working group. We need to go full NGO style and
Yes,
put
ReFi
together
now.
our guiding principles. Yeah, our guiding principles. What we think matters, and we need to engage with these groups in a way that's constructive.
Yes.
And I think that coming together is going to help that. And I think if we can help Toucan do that, we should. And maybe that's something that we should do.
Yeah, toucan's good
Okay.
people.
But yeah, that's a good end note, actually. Let's work together more. But I need to jump off.
All right. Pleasure. We will catch you on the next one. Remember to ape responsibly. Peace, dudes
Peace.
and dudettes.